Yeagerlol is a YouTuber with 75k subs, mostly known for his champion gameplay guides. I've also compiled evidence that he's been using burner accounts on Reddit to slander other content creators, such as myself, among others, which will be detailed throughout this video. I've known Yeagerlol since 2018 when he started writing Vapora guides to promote his stream, and I've since known him as another YouTuber who posted champion guides. At first, in late 2018, I was just vaguely aware of him posting Vapora guides under the name Yeagermid. But later on, in early 2019, I became more familiar with him and his presence on Vapora for reasons that would already cement him in my mind as a dishonest person. We'll cover that later, as it's the least important thing. It's more important to cover what I found since yesterday. To start with, I'm going to recount how I discovered this information and the necessary context leading up to it. 3 years ago, in August 2020, someone posting under the name Yeagerlol posted a thread called LPP League Partner, which by the way stands for League Partner Program League Partner, you fucking dumbass. Vapora Dark leaves game on stream and hops on his Smurf account, with a link to a 38-second long streamable clip titled Rage Quitting Game on Stream, which showed me saying, "I'm not going to play this game, man, I'm just going to go on my Smurf, fuck this," and hitting Alt F4 and leaving the game. On the surface, it looks like a classic rage quit, but this was strongly misrepresented because of the context that was intentionally left out. What the clip didn't show was me keeping a positive mindset even as my bot-lane was getting stomped, up until my Zeroth support decided to troll the game by coming mid and taking all my farm. He wasn't even mad at me, he was just mad at my ADC, and decided trolling mid would be the fastest way to get the whole team to give up. People don't really open mid anymore, I just realized, but back then it was trendy to collectively as a team decide to all AFK in base to let the enemies push mid and then fast if it became clear a game was over before the 15-minute FF mark. It was a very toxic trend though, because people quickly realized that if they personally wanted to open mid and their team didn't, they could just force the whole team to do it anyway by going AFK or trolling, personally ensuring that the game was unwinnable, so that their team would have no choice but to either play out an unfun, doomed game, or simply open mid with them, which allowed the troll to get their way. This is what Zeroth was doing, and after about 2 minutes of having my fun ruined, I decided it was pointless to try and keep enjoying that game, so I conceded and told my team to just open mid while I recalled. Instead of sitting there AFK with the team though, I wanted to be time efficient and move on to a Smurf to keep the gameplay downtime at a minimum for the stream. There was no harm to Alt F4ing besides risking a lever buster, or so I thought, so I Alt F4'd. This is the part that was clipped and stripped of the context of the trolling Zeroth, making it seem like I was the toxic player instigating an open mid, and not the victim of someone else ruining that game to force an open mid. When I gave the context in the Reddit thread, the commenters and voters that saw it were actually very sympathetic to my circumstances and suddenly understood why I had left the game. However, my comment was buried under the initial hate comments and the thread had 1,000 upvotes, which meant it had probably been seen by over 50,000 or even 100,000 people, most of which did not scroll down enough to see my comment explaining the situation. The poster had purposefully misinterpreted the situation, hoping to tarnish my reputation, even including my association with Riot under the League Partner Program to make it seem more scandalous. And it worked, since even while explaining the situation to Riot, I was suspended from the program for 6 months as punishment, as they had to set an example. That's in addition to the hundreds of hate comments and their toll on my mental health. This was my first, but turned out to not be my final interaction with the poster named Yeagerlol. Throughout the years, I would occasionally post links to educational videos I'd made on Summoner School, and Yeagerlol would show up and accuse me of smurfing, clickbaiting, flame me for shit like having a 49% win rate on my main account, and just generally trying to discredit me and slander me in any way he could when he saw I'd posted anything. It wasn't just on threads I posted either, as looking through his comment history showed that he would show up to any comment section I was mentioned to flame me, or lie about things that would make me look bad, such as calling me a viewbotter for having my stream embedded on my guides. I wasn't the only content creator he was happy to flame though. I was the only one with the honor of having a full thread made about me, and I was his most frequent target, but flaming other content creators was an extremely common pattern with his comments, even while displaying knowledge about them that only someone who watches them could know. It was clear to me that just reading through his comments that either this was a very unhinged and chronically online individual who spent all of his time hate-watching content creators he dislikes, or he was the alt account of someone else in the content creating industry, and that's how he knew so much about the people he obviously disliked, and had such a vested interest in discrediting them. I was always leaning towards the second theory, but even if I was right, I assumed figuring out who was behind the account would be next to impossible, so I never bothered trying. That brings us to yesterday, when I was reading through old hate threads and making myself sad about it for no reason, as I sometimes do. I clicked on League of Legendo's profile not for the first time, and just had a read at the profile of this person who had very intentionally gone to great effort to slander my name in front of thousands. This time I noticed that his second ever Reddit post, and the one he'd posted before the one on me, was a question on our Yone mains asking what people thought Yone's build would be. I'd probably seen it before, but it was too unnoteworthy to remember. Only this time, I saw the word Yone and thought, man, imagine if this guy turned out to be Yeagerlol. Since Yeager, I believe, is a Yone main, based on Yone being his profile picture on most platforms. It was a ridiculous thought though, since obviously a master tier Yone main wouldn't be going to Reddit for information on how to build. Except I remembered this was 3 years ago, and actually before Yone's release, so it wouldn't have been too outlandish for Yeagerlol to have asked it on an alt account, as incredibly unlikely as it was, since he wouldn't have been maining Yone yet. I later found he even posted a Yone Vapora guide 2 days after the question was asked, indicating that both League of Legendo and Yeagerlol just happened to be individuals who were playing Yone in the days leading up to his release. Okay then, so since I couldn't rule it out, and Yeagerlol fit the bill of both being in the industry to know things about so many different content creators, and also has personal past ties to me directly through our history on Mobifire, which in theory made him a perfect candidate for being behind the account, I decided to do some digging. Let's find Yeager's public Reddit account, the one I'd seen him posting on Summoner School many times, and compare his typing mannerisms compared to League of Legendo's typing mannerisms. Well, this was harder than it needed to be since for some reason, Yeager's public Reddit account was actually permanently suspended, which meant I couldn't directly look at his profile. But I'm no stranger to a good old investigation, so by typing Yeagerlol into Google, while isolating the results to the Reddit website, I was able to find submissions and comments of his that were still marked under his name, since his account was suspended rather than deleted. While looking for identifying tells in their comments and submissions, I very quickly noticed that neither of them capitalizes the letter I when saying I, I've, or I'll. Both of them had comments where they were clearly trying to type with proper grammar and punctuation, always capitalizing the first word of a new sentence, but neither seemed to be aware that you also capitalize I when it's by itself. That alone doesn't really mean anything except that they probably were both non-native English speakers. But it was enough to start taking my own theory really seriously and start looking for more things that could link the two accounts. Because surely I had not just accidentally guessed the actual owner of the League of Legendo account, right? How insanely unlikely would that be? The next thing I found was that both of them had previously submitted threads that received thousands of upvotes highlighting a champion win rate, questioning why Riot hadn't nerfed them yet. This got me suspicious because it's a really specific thing to post about. Not everyone posts to Reddit asking why any given champion hasn't been nerfed yet. Additionally, both of them had the exact same wording of X champion is sitting at Y win rate. And both of them went out of their way to mention the win rate was consistent across all major regions, rather than just dropping the overall win rate and calling it a day, like most people who do this would. These two accounts who typed the same, played the same champion over the same period, and made very similar threads to each other, definitely felt more and more likely that it could just be one person behind both. I also knew that despite me and Yeager not having communicated since 2019, he still kept tabs on me. I know this because I've recently seen a lot of success on YouTube making educational Unranked to Diamond videos that are multiple hours long rather than being posted a single game at a time, and he's been posting educational Unranked to Diamond videos that are 1 to 4 hours long, which use the exact same title format as my videos do. They are all How to Climb with Yone, Yone Unranked to Diamond Episode X, League of Legends. My titles are identical down to the exact same hyphen and vertical bar placements. The only difference is that I do number 1 instead of episode 1. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from other creators, of course, I don't mind that, but it's the exactness of using my titles for my unique video structures that made it clear he's taken inspiration from me in particular, proving that he's at least on this occasion kept tabs on me even though our paths haven't crossed since 2019. And keeping tabs on me is something he would have had to do at a minimum in order to be behind League of Legendo. At this point it was still a stretch, but I was already highly confident that I was right and Yeagerlol was League of Legendo. It was a fact in my mind. However, because an accusation requires higher burden of proof than an intuition does, here are some additional things of note that I've learned since I initially dug into it. Legal Legendo is an Apex Legends player as seen by this post here in January 2021. As of late 2020, Yeager was also playing Apex Legends. In February 2021, Legal Legendo posted a thread about Mark Yetter's statement on Riot account MMRs. Yeagerlol has 32 replies to Mark Yetter on Twitter, and his quote replied an uncountable number of Mark Yetter tweets before Yetter stepped down. He would easily be the type to post a Mark Yetter tweet on Reddit. He also replies to Chase Shako with a screenshot of the Mark Yetter tweet he posted on Reddit, 5 days after it was posted. Just proves that he was at the very least aware of the tweet, although that seems obvious given how he borderline cyber-stalked the man. 3 years ago, Legal Legendo posted a comment discrediting YouTuber King Sticks. 2 years ago, Yeager made a comment in his Discord discrediting King Sticks. 3 years ago, Legal Legendo made a comment praising Coach Curtis. 3 years ago, Yeager learned of Coach Curtis, and then started praising him from there onwards. More damning, he asked who Curtis is some months before Legal Legendo claimed to have watched him for some months. 3 years ago, on November 17th, 2020, Legal Legendo accused Happy Chime Noises of trying to copy Dong Huap. 12 days later, Yeager says, I feel like everybody is trying to copy Dong Huap. 3 years ago, Legal Legendo made a comment flaming me where he also threw a dig at Eternal Hero, claiming all his guides are against players below level 30. 9 months prior, Yeager had claimed Eternal Hero was making videos of pre-level 30 games. I just want to interject at this point, I don't even know who Eternal Hero is, I've never heard of him. But both of these people know of him, and just happen to have the exact same criticism of him, having researched the OPGGs to find this knowledge. Just throwing that out there. 3 years ago, Legal Legendo made a comment disparaging Professor Akali and the way he manages Fogged FTW's YouTube channel. 4 months later, Yeager recommended Fogged because despite the clickbait, he's a good Tryndamere player, and mentions that Professor Akali manages his YouTube channel. He doesn't disparage Professor Akali in this instance, but he has done so in the past, lining up with Legal Legendo's behavior. So even before I discovered these last 7 pieces of evidence which proves both accounts seem to know all the same things and hold all the same opinions, I was pretty convinced that I was right. You could say the evidence was flimsy, but it was good enough for me to be confident. It had started as a ridiculous thought which I hadn't really intended to take seriously, but the more I dug into it, the more links there were between Yeagerlol and Legal Legendo. I knew I couldn't prove it, and it's been 2 years since the account even posted anything, so it hardly felt like it mattered now anyway, but I finally understood who'd done it, and why they seemed so hell-bent on discrediting such a wide array of content creators on Reddit. As suspected, it was just another content creator looking to tear down their peers anonymously, whether out of spite, jealousy, or any number of other reasons. Mostly I was just amazed by the fact that I had actually randomly guessed the owner of the account before even finding any real evidence pointing to him. The odds of that felt impossibly low. Calling it a lucky guess would be an understatement. Then another ridiculous thought came into my head. What if the other Reddit hate thread on me was also created by Yeagerlol? 1 year ago in September 2022, someone posting under the name AverageStudent1 posted a thread titled League Partner Vapora Dark has been going 0-11-0 and been on 20 game loss streaks on a new account in Iron/Bronze to get his account to stay in this MMR for his Nuzlocke challenge. The previous thread about me had 1,000 upvotes, but this one had 8,000. If over 100,000 people had seen the previous thread, then likely over 1 million had seen this one. The thing that this thread and the previous one had in common was that both of them were intentionally crafted to misrepresent the situation. In fact, this one told an outright lie. The thread linked an account I'd been playing on in videos which did have large loss streaks and clear inting behavior, but I hadn't been the one to do it. I had just simply bought an Iron 4 account, which meant the entire premise of the title and thread was completely untrue. Just like the previous case, I had done something wrong. The first time, I'd let a troll pressure me into breaking the TOS by going AFK alongside some of my teammates. This time, I'd broken TOS by purchasing an account, and also financially contributed to the Iron 4D ranking industry, which morally is definitively not okay, and far worse than regular smurfing and account sharing. At the time, it hadn't seemed like a big deal, but the hate from the thread forced me to confront the reality of the act, and realized that I couldn't justify it and hadn't been thinking of anyone but myself in buying the account. I hadn't run it down, but I'd done a bad thing anyway, so to an extent I felt like I at least somewhat deserved the hate this time, and accepted it. But once again, it was an occasion where some misdeed I'd done was being twisted to seem even worse than it really was. Like the poster didn't just want me to suffer for what I'd done, but also for what I hadn't. Last time it was obvious Legal Legendo really did want to incite as much hate on me as possible by very intentionally removing any sympathizing context. But in Average Student's case, I wasn't sure whether he was misrepresenting the situation out of malice, or whether he was really that unaware that he had no idea about the massive Iron 4D ranking industry, which was obviously a much more likely explanation for the account than a YouTuber running it down off camera for 60 games in a row. I remember looking into his account at the time, and he barely posted about League, so I thought maybe it really is just an insanely casual player who didn't know any better. Had I actually just been that unlucky? But I would just treat it as karma for my real sin and the lesson for the future. So revisiting the thread yesterday, the first thing I noticed was just like the first thread, this one also singled me out as a League partner. Which struck me as a curious thing for both the massive hate threads on me to both call me a League partner in the title, because it's a detail about me that basically never gets brought up. 99% of my viewers couldn't tell you that I'm a League partner. But not only did both posters know this detail, both of them felt it was an important enough detail to state it in the title. A League partner, of all things, breaking the TOS. Oh, the humanity. At least the first one was a clip from my Twitch stream, which does have the LPP logo at the bottom of my panels. But this one was based on something that happened entirely on YouTube. And nowhere have my YouTube videos ever mentioned or hinted at being a League partner. How likely could it be that this person actually knew about it, and also felt it was worth mentioning in the title, just like the previous poster? The second thing to notice is that all the I's were capitalized perfectly. But the post also ended in an edit disclaimer saying grammar. What were the grammar mistakes pre-edit? Uncapitalized I's by any chance? Maybe a stretch. Let's check out his post history. Except, what do you know, this account is also suspended. So we once again take the Google hacks to figure out what details we can about Average Student 1. First off, the uncapitalized I's are actually indeed back. At least partially. It seems Average Student knows that you capitalize I when it's by itself, but doesn't realize that a lone I accompanied by an apostrophe and other letters is still a lone I. So you capitalize I in I'm and in I'll. It's worth noting that this was 2 years ago, and his most recent posts and comments, as of 11 months ago, do capitalize the I properly in all circumstances now. It's worth noting, though, that so does Yeager. At some point, he also learned to capitalize all his lone I's within the past 2 years. So we are looking at 2 accounts who 2 years ago were not capitalizing their I's properly, but now are. That's the first link. It's very stretchy, but it's a link. Aside from all that though, here's everything linking together Average Student with Yeagerlol. 2 years ago, Average Student was, predictably, a student. 2 years ago, Yeagerlol was also a student. 2 years ago, Average Student asks how someone expects him to afford Reddit awards as a student. Yeagerlol in his Discord talks about anything helps when you're a student in regards to money. Another time, he talks about hitting the jackpot if you ever saw that amount of money as a student. Both of them seem to talk about financial stuff always in direct relation to their status as a student. Average Student's most posted on subreddit is our cryptocurrency. When asked about crypto, Yeager responds that he studies economy and business, so crypto is must-know stuff for him. Average Student has a few posts in our DK Finance, the finance subreddit for Denmark. Yeager is from... Yeah, I bet the suspense is killing you, isn't it? Yeah, he's from Denmark. Average Student started posting in Raid Shadow Legends on August 11th, 2022, where he said he was level 50. I don't know how long it takes to get to level 50 in that game, but I assume not too long. He also mentions he's about to get 2 legendary books and he's never had one before, which also sounds fairly newbie. So I assume in August 11th, Average Student has probably not been playing for very long. Anyway, in completely unrelated news, 2 months prior, in June 18th, Yeagerlol started playing Raid Shadow Legends, after being sponsored by them for one of his videos. In news completely unrelated to that, Yeager stated that raid isn't coming anywhere near my channel in July 2020. In news completely unrelated to that, Yeager did his first Raid Shadow sponsorship in February 2021, 7 months after claiming he would never do one. This has nothing to do with him being average student, it's just that I'm going to delight in exposing him as a hypocrite many times throughout this video. So to summarize, both of them are Raid Shadow legends playing crypto-knowledged Danish students who learned to capitalize their lone eyes over the same 2-year period, while being students over the same period, and started playing Raid Shadow legends over the same period. Oh, and of course they're both League of Legends players. So at this point, I don't think there's anybody watching that would disagree that Yeagerlol is both Legal Legendo and average student. Meaning Yeagerlol is directly behind both of the massive hate threads I've received on Reddit over the past 4 years. First, he linked a clip he knew would look bad without context while knowing no one would care about the clip if he did provide the context. Then he outright lied to make it look like a bad thing I had done was a horrible thing. He manipulated hundreds of people to make hate comments towards me and tarnished my reputation forever. Then 2 years later, did it again on an even greater scale. Yeagerlol is single-handedly the reason why if you Google my name, you will see Reddit threads that make me out to be super toxic, as if I'm not a saint in-game. Because yes, as far as in-game behavior is concerned, I am a saint. I don't care about being humble, it is true. Anyone who watches my videos knows it. I never flame, never ping. I barely even type except to make calls or tell my team to stop flaming each other and focus. I'm straight up one of the least toxic content creators in the entire game. And it is because of Yeagerlol and Yeagerlol alone that if you Google me, you might think the opposite. So why on earth would he do this then, you might wonder? Why would he hate me so much that he'd still actively stalk me and try to get me into trouble for years after our last ever piece of contact? What did I do to him to make him hate me so much? Well, let's get into why I said I already thought of him as a dishonest person as far back as 2019. Those of you who know my lore will know I used to get a lot of viewers on Twitch, which I claimed came from having my stream embedded in Vapora guides. It wasn't just a claim, it was true. I'd been writing guides on Vapora since 2011, starting with a Warwick guide, then a Talon guide, and was a semi-famous Talon one-trick long before I ever started streaming or making videos, just because my Talon guide was so well known and admired. I used to stream like once a month when I was in college and would get up to 60 viewers just from followers I'd received from posting my link on my guide. I never had to go through a phase of streaming to 0 viewers because I already had people who wanted to watch me before I even made my Twitch account. My guide was that big, and then I hit Master on top of it and everyone knew I was a high-ranked Talon one-trick, even though I was barely a content creator. When I started maining ADC in 2016, I also started writing ADC guides, and I knew that by the time I finished my education, I wanted to try transitioning into trying to be a full-time streamer, playing ADC since I was bored of Talon. The guides were supposed to advertise me as effectively as the Talon guide had over the years. 1 month into streaming to like 15 viewers, since my Talon viewers had dropped me, I randomly got like 1,000 viewers. I thought I was being view-botted, so I shut off the stream. It wasn't until the next day, when it happened again, that I realized Mobafar had started embedding author streams on their guides and auto-playing them. Because I was both, like, basically a Mobafar celebrity with 6 years of guide writing experience, and also having just started streaming full-time, I was the exact definition of right place, right time. The embeds had never been a part of the plan of becoming a streamer, but I obviously wasn't going to say no to them. After a while, people started catching on to the fact that I actually wasn't viewbotting, and they could also get viewers from writing guides on Mobafar too. So in 2018, here came names like Bizzleberry, Yeagerlol, Yamikaze, Wicked, and many more that you may recognize and many more you may not. It wasn't long before they discovered they could make serious money from this deal too, running constant ads to the embedded Mobafar viewers. And I mean serious money. Completely life-altering money. Suddenly everyone wanted to be Vapora Dark with 20 top-rated guides and 2,000 embedded viewers. None of them wanted to wait 6 years to develop the same reputation Vapora Dark had built. So they started vote manipulating. Not all of them, but most. I imagine it started with linking their guides to friends and asking them to upvote, then asking people in their stream discords to upvote, then straight up linking competitors' guides and asking to downvote when they realized this was a more effective way of vote manipulating. Anytime another streamer was competing for the top slot of any champion I also had a guide for, it was always a massive headache dealing with the blatant vote manipulation and constant requesting of the admins to look into it and remove offending votes. And the competition wasn't ever more fierce than it was with brand new champion releases. Brand new champions could get up to 20 times more traffic for the first few days than any other champion. As soon as people realized this, every new champion release led to 5 different streamers making a guide for them, and the guide rankings would constantly shift over the first day as people constantly vote brigaded each other. This behavior escalated until suddenly Yeagerlol was getting dozens more votes than anyone else. Then another streamer he was competing with also started getting dozens more votes than anyone else out of nowhere. I couldn't figure out how either one of them was getting so many more votes than anyone else, considering they weren't even big streamers with large communities. They were actually both very small. They shouldn't have even had access to as many people willing to upvote as they seem to have. Eventually I realized falsifying votes with a VPN had to be the only way they could be getting that many votes. And talking to the admins confirmed that they didn't actually really have any VPN protection, which I thought was insane. I'd always taken it for granted that they had. Anyway, the admin had a talk with Yeager over the now clear use of VPN votes over his guides. Yeager wanted to talk to whoever had brought up the vote manipulation concerns to clear things up, so I told the admin he could tell Yeager to message me on Twitter. There he apologized for the situation and claimed he hadn't been aware of it, that he just found out that his followers and friends had been doing it without telling him. I said, okay, well if you just found out about this, then surely you can show screenshots of the conversation where you found out. He pivots to saying that these are people all from his university study group, implying that the conversation happened in real life, so it's impossible to prove that it actually happened. At this point, I'm like, okay, well your guides have been receiving like 50 more votes than anyone else, so how many people are in the study group exactly? He keeps avoiding the question until he evidently decides that telling a half-truth is going to be the only way I will actually get off his back. Apparently, he's now discovered that his friends were using VPNs to falsify votes on his guides and downvote competition, and they were doing this for multiple champion releases. They were constantly monitoring all the guide scores for each new champion release all day, making sure that their friend Yeager's guide was always the guide on top, so that their good friend Yeager could get a lot of views and make a lot of money. And they did this entirely behind his back because why would he need to know? They're just his guardian angels looking out for him. Except obviously that's a load of horse shit. Yeager himself was using a VPN to falsify votes. So was the streamer he was engaged in a vote manipulation war with at the time. Both of them stopped doing it after this event, probably scared that if they did it again, they'd risk being banned this time now that we were onto them. Little did they know, Mobifire wouldn't have done shit, by the way. They never actually banned anyone for vote manipulation of any kind if they couldn't prove who was actually behind it, which was 99% of the time, which is a good policy for making sure you can't just frame competitors and get them banned, but a not so good policy for encouraging people not to vote manipulate. Another streamer was a much bigger pain in my ass because at some point he also learned he could vote manipulate with a VPN. And he'd been warned for vote manipulation against me specifically so many times before, I guess he figured they were empty warnings and he wasn't really at risk of being banned. That situation carried on until I took down all my guides, boycotted Mobifire a year later to actually get some proper VPN protection. That same streamer would also go on to be by far the most successful streamer of anyone who wrote Mobifire guides, because karma doesn't really exist. Anyway, point of the story. Well, I can only guess Yeager still holds a grudge because I ruined the good thing he had going with his VPN manipulation setup. He could have made a lot of money if I had just kept my mouth shut and let him fuck over everyone else, and I guess he's still bitter about it. Or was as of a year ago when he made the Lost thread. Probably still is. The 3 or so days where this unfolded is the only point of friction we have ever had in 4 years of knowing of each other's existence. Up until now, I have literally never had a reason to even think of him, besides reminiscing about the Mobifire wars. But I guess somehow he's more mad about me catching him cheating than I am about him cheating. Okay, so now we've covered all of Yeager's behavior towards me. I've also slightly touched on some of his behavior towards other creators in the scene when it related to proving he was the person behind the accounts. But now I'm just going to quickly highlight every nasty comment he made, mostly towards other creators, to show the real Yeager that was hiding under names like Lego Legendo. The first negative comment is in relation to YouTuber King Sticks, where he claims King Sticks plays on LAN because he would be stuck diamond in NA. Okay, but I've also seen Nice accused of only hitting his peak rank near Challenger on NA while being duo boosted by King Sticks. Supposed known duo booster King Sticks. Is he boosting people to Challenger or is he hard stuck diamond? I don't think people can make up their minds. Next, he condescendingly accused Happy Chime Noises of trying to copy Dong Huap while saying it just doesn't work for Chime. Well, now he looks like a fucking idiot because Happy Chime Noises blew up into the massive channel he is today, literally 2 months after that comment. Dumbass. Next, he hijacked one of my threads again to accuse me of the usual stuff, as well as accusing me of copying Wicked's guide style. To this day, I have not watched a second of a Wicked guide, and I had no idea he made YouTube guides. Dumbass. Here, he just randomly shames someone sharing their guide because they play on EUNE. Fun fact, Yeagerlol's main server used to be EUNE until he finally reached Master in EU West. Only now that he's an EU West Master, is EUNE rank suddenly invalid in his eyes. Next comment, in an insane twist, we have Yeager flaming Wicked for his guide format. The same guide format he accused me of copying from Wicked, then linked Wicked's channel as if he was defending his honor. Not even 2 months after that interaction, he's flaming him. Next we have him saying, are there actually people who think Aoki is above diamond level? It's funny most here still don't know he duo queue with a challenger ADC, Cougar, on his Smurf account to get Aoki out of diamond. Have fun watching him this season now that duo queue has gone in Masters Plus. Yeah, well I happen to know for a fact, Yeager, that Aoki has literally hit Grandmaster since then, which is higher than you've ever peaked. Again, you fucking dumbass. Next up, Guy posts a video his friend edited, asks for help to motivate his friend to make more videos. Yeager replies, cringe video. In a thread where someone asks for Challenger YouTuber suggestions, someone answers with King Sticks, and Yeager calls Sticks a dipshit. He doesn't even know you exist while you slander him on burner accounts, man. I don't know what the context was here because of the deleted thread, but he tells someone to shut the fuck up, nerd. A bit aggressive. Another post speaking about me, where he says my guide embedding was essentially soft view botting to tarnish my reputation. May I remind you that this person was all aboard the embed train right alongside me, averaging close to 2,000 viewers for the month of December 2018, when he wasn't even getting 100 viewers without the embeds. It's not just hypocritical, but outright malicious to weaponize something we both did against me to make me look bad just because he hates me that much. Here he just flames Alas for not being as good as a pro player. This is someone he's actively praised in his Discord. Even he is not safe from the anonymous flame. And that's about it. There were so many other rude and condescending comments he made to random Redditors, but they weren't all worth showing. Anyway, since getting this far into the script, I've also discovered a third account of Yeager's. Remember how I thought the X sitting at Y win rate wording was suspicious? I searched the phrase, is sitting at, on the League subreddit to see if that could potentially reveal any of his other accounts. And believe it or not, it did. It reveals a third burner account named Accountant131, also complaining about a high win rate, which you can tell is once again Yeager's just by the fact that it says the exact phrase, breaking every criteria, just like he did in the Kha'Zix thread, in regards to Riot's balancing framework, which he links the same way both times in between parentheses. This account is also not suspended, so we can see that it not only posts on our League of Legends, but also on our cryptocurrency and our SafeMoon, some other crypto I've been posting about on Average Student. Turns out this account also made a cameo earlier that we didn't notice. If we go back to the comment I recently mentioned, where Yeager basically accuses himself of soft view botting, we see the thread is posted by someone who ended up deleting it. Now usually we wouldn't be able to see who posted it if they self-deleted. But if we scroll down to the bottom of the thread, we see it was manually removed by a moderator who directly tags Accountant131. So he posted the thread on Accountant131, feigning ignorance about who I am to ask a loaded question, then used the opportunity to reply to himself and flame me on another account. And of course the comment section is just flaming me as he knew it would be, prompted by whatever it is he posted. So I was wrong. He didn't make 2 hate threads about me in 4 years. He actually posted 3 hate threads in 3 years, which would make him do another one soon. We'll see if he still feels like posting it now that he knows I'll know it's him though. I won't lie though, it does make me feel special now, knowing that I got 3 threads made about me, while other creators only got nasty comments made about them. Yeager, if you're watching this, you fucking suck at covering your trucks, man. I mean, wow. How the fuck did I figure all of this out? I shouldn't have been able to find 1 burner account, let alone 3. That is so embarrassing for you. But more than that, you are a terrible, awful person. I sincerely hope you seek therapy so you can learn to stop being this petty, hateful person you've been hiding all these years. I wish I could say more to get back at the person who's been trying their hardest to ruin my career for the past 4 years, but sadly hurting people with nasty comments doesn't give me the same satisfaction it seems to give you. I'm just going to have to settle for the embarrassment you should feel in actually getting caught, and the shame you should feel in people knowing who you really are now.